I went from this to this in 3 months. I lost 25 pounds and 5 inches of belly fat, and I've kept it off for over 2 years. Because so many of you have been asking how I tie all this together, I wanted to show a sample day, not a highlight reel, just a typical day. I'm going to share the recipes and give some ideas for tweaks along the way. Stay till the end because I have 2 extra tips and a bonus recipe that's my trusted staple. It's the one that played a huge role in getting me results. And look, I've typed this recipe out so many times in the comments, I figured everyone should just have it at this point. For those of you who are new, I'm Nancy. I have a background in biochemistry, and when my weight wouldn't move after menopause, I went back to the science to figure out why. Along the way, I also became a certified nutrition coach. But here's the most important thing you need to know going in. After menopause, our hormones change our whole relationship with food. Calories alone were never the whole story, not even close. What drives the bus is how your blood sugar responds to what you eat, especially after menopause. Keeping blood sugar spikes low and infrequent is how the weight comes off. That's the whole mechanism, low and infrequent. And here's the truly crazy part. I eat more food now, way more, and way more calories in a day than when I was carrying the extra 25 pounds. So this is how I figured it all out. I wear a continuous glucose monitor. It tracks my blood sugar around the clock. And once I started looking at my own data, I knew exactly what I needed to do. What I'm showing you today is what that looks like in practice. A full day built around keeping the spikes under control. Because estrogen keeps your body sensitive to insulin before menopause, and because that sensitivity drops when estrogen does, your body ends up needing more and more insulin just to do the same job it used to do easily. And insulin doesn't just handle blood sugar. It has another job too, fat storage. High insulin tells your cells, don't burn, store. It drives glucose straight into fat cells and locks it there. That's the cycle. Break that first and everything else starts moving in the right direction. I tested every single one of these meals on myself, so what you're about to see isn't theory. It's my actual blood sugar doing exactly what I'm telling you it'll do. For those of you who follow the channel, welcome back. You've seen these graphs before. And for those of you who are new, here's what they look like for context. The one with steep, jagged spikes, that shows an unhealthy response pattern. The other looks more like rolling hills. That's the healthy one. My personal target is to stay under a 40-point rise at any given meal, and that's what keeps my body in fat-burning territory. Keep that number in mind because we're about to test it meal by meal. I'll give you a list of ingredients as we go, so don't worry about writing anything down. I'll post the full recipes with instructions and the full meal plan in the comments below. The rule behind every single one of these meals is the same. Protein and healthy fat lead, and the carb comes along for the ride. Like many of you, I start my day with coffee. I use heavy cream or unsweetened nut pods, and I add my own sweetener, either allulose or stevia, but lately I've been leaning towards allulose a lot more. I completely gave up store-bought creamers a long time ago because most are loaded with sugar and a long list of things I just don't want in my coffee. A lot of you have been asking about coffee specifically. There's a whole video coming on that soon. What's important to know for now is that coffee on its own can nudge your blood sugar up, even with 0 carbs in it. So it's worth being mindful about the food you send in alongside or right after it. And if your coffee's loaded with sweet creamers, that number is going to run a lot higher than what you're about to see from the way I drink mine. On this particular day, here's how my coffee affected my blood sugar. 82 to 93, 11 points. Now that's not going to make or break your day, but like I said, what comes next on top of it can. Around an hour after my coffee, I made a veggie frittata for breakfast. It is protein packed, and that one choice can really set the tone for your entire day. This recipe makes 3 servings. I eat 1, I save 2 for easy reheats. Here's what's in it. Hang on, let me get my recipe card. Okay, the frittata. Whole eggs, liquid egg whites, nitrate-free turkey bacon, zucchini, onion, plum tomatoes, baby spinach, olive oil for cooking, and salt and pepper. Again, how you put all this together with cooking instructions for this recipe and the others I'm sharing today will be in the comments. With the frittata, I also had a half cup of 2% cottage cheese with a cup of mixed berries. Here's how that breakfast affected my blood sugar. 81 to 97, 16 points. Compare that to the graphs I showed you earlier. No spike here, just a gentle, sustained hill. Exactly what we want. And if you're dairy-free, I've got swaps coming. I'll show you what you can sub out when we get to the bonus recipe. There's something happening in your body before you even take one bite though, and I'll show you how to use that to your advantage in a minute. Mid-morning, I had an apple for my snack. Fruit has sugar, sure, but the fiber in it helps trigger your body's own GLP-1 response. And these are my approved fruits. Berries, an apple, a pear with the skin on, because that's where the fiber is. I'd skip things like watermelon and mango, for example. Later for lunch, I had a turkey burger, but this recipe works with lean beef too. The recipe makes 4 patties. I batch them ahead and they reheat really well too. Sometimes I'll even break one cold up over a salad. Here's the ingredients. Okay, lean ground turkey or beef, coconut oil for the cooking, sweet onion, red pepper, and the seasonings are cayenne pepper, cumin, flat parsley, and salt and pepper. Sometimes I throw flaxseed meal in there for extra fiber. And here's a tip. Even though this recipe doesn't call for breadcrumbs, flaxseed meal works as a binder in just about any recipe that does. And something else worth knowing, at least 90% of us aren't getting enough fiber day to day, so that's not a small thing. This particular day I sauteed green beans and a half a cup of basmati rice alongside the burger. Sometimes if I want the real burger feel, I'll eat it open face on half the bun and swap out the rice. Half the bun doesn't ever make me feel like I missed out on anything. Here's how the turkey burger lunch affected my blood sugar that day. 82 to 102, 20-point rise. Perfectly on target, another win for the day. Now remember that thing I said about breakfast, something happening before you even eat? Here it is, the first tip I told you about in the beginning. A small green salad with a healthy dressing eaten before the meal kickstarts that same natural GLP-1 response I mentioned. It's not something I do before every meal, but I'll reach for it before breakfast, lunch, and or dinner. Salad with a savory breakfast is actually my favorite way to have it. I always make my own dressing because store-bought is almost always ultra-processed and loaded with stuff I just don't want in my salad. I'll link one of my favorite dressing recipes with the others below. A few hours after lunch, I had half cup 2% plain Greek yogurt with another cup of berries. Before dinner, I did the same thing, salad first, and then white chicken chili, a definite fan favorite in my house. This recipe makes 4 servings. And I want to talk to you about beans for a second because I get asked about them constantly. Beans are healthy, they have fiber, protein, and real nutrients, but because they're carbs and because every bean except soy is missing some of the amino acids your body needs, you have to pair them with something else to round out the protein. Here's what goes into the chili. Okay, hang on. All right, shredded boneless chicken breast, canned Great Northern beans, low sodium chicken broth, onion, red pepper, canned green chilies, garlic. And the seasonings are cumin, chili powder, oregano, salt and pepper. And for garnish, a little Greek yogurt for creaminess, love that, and sliced avocado, and who doesn't love that? Okay, this recipe calls for 3 cups of broth, but I usually only use about 2 because I like it thicker. And here's another tip for extra creaminess. Mash up a cup of the beans before they go into the pot. Here's how the chili affected my blood sugar. 83 to 109, 26 points, still right on target again, exactly what I want to see for the day. Now let's talk about something that has nothing to do with food at all, but it might be the single biggest lever you're missing. Here's the second tip I promised you, and this one really gets me. Hydration. Water is a natural appetite suppressant. It supports metabolism, and without enough of it, your body just isn't as efficient at breaking down fat for energy. Of everything in my whole approach, water is genuinely my hardest habit. I see people walking around with these giant flasks, and I'm a little jealous, you know. I can't choke that much water down at once. So here's what works for me instead. I keep this little 4-ounce glass, this one right here. I keep it next to me at all times while I'm working. Every hour that I'm awake, I fill it and drink it down in one shot. That's 64 ounces by the end of the day. Just baseline, but it gets me there. This sounds like more work than just carrying around one of those gigantic bottles, and maybe it is, but here's the point. Find whatever works for you and just go for it. And here's another tip about water. Sometimes what feels like hunger is actually thirst. The next time you want a snack at a time you know you really shouldn't be hungry, try a glass of water or iced hibiscus tea first. 9 times out of 10, that's really all it takes. And now the bonus recipe. I don't have it every single day, but it's something I have on repeat throughout the week, and it played a big part in my weight loss, as I said earlier. It's a full meal, and it's my signature protein smoothie. I already know what you're thinking though. It's a liquid and it won't fill me up, but I promise this thing will change your mind when you try it. Here's the full ingredient list. And honestly, I shouldn't need a recipe card, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything for you. Okay, frozen mixed berries, unsweetened organic almond milk, plain Greek yogurt, full fat or 2%, flaxseed meal, chia seeds, clean protein powder, and I add beetroot powder. It's totally optional, but I don't like beets, but I do like the nutrition they provide, so this is just how I sneak them in without having to taste them. Here's how this smoothie affects my blood sugar. 83 to 102, 19 points from the most nutrient-dense meal I eat all week. Now remember the couple of tweaks I promised earlier? Here's the first. If you're dairy-free, coconut or almond yogurt works as a plant-based swap for both Greek yogurt and cottage cheese. Here's the second. Swap whey protein powder for pea protein powder. You'll lose a little protein with either of those swaps, so add an extra scoop of the protein powder if you can. My smoothie, as described, has 48 grams of protein. 48, which is almost half my daily target in one meal. Sometimes I even have a handful of almonds on the side for crunch, not blended in, just alongside. The almonds add even more protein to that total. And when you look at everything I showed you today, this is carb sequencing and protein pacing. That's it. That's the whole pattern behind every single meal. I tell you why on this channel, but I don't stop there. I also show you how. So let's put some real numbers behind that, not counting the smoothie since that one's a bonus and not part of what I actually ate that day. The whole day landed at 1,650 calories, 132 grams of protein, 131 carbs, 55 fat, and 35 fiber. I was full all day on that, far more so than 1,650 calories from the wrong foods in the wrong order. Remember, these are my personal results. Everyone's different, and you should always talk to your doctor before making changes to your diet. Now, this is worth tying back to a couple of things you've heard me say before. I always talk about getting at least 40 grams of protein per meal. 132 for this day backs that up. Fiber too, and enough healthy fat to slow digestion. The carb number might catch you off guard though, 131 grams, when I've also said I try to stay under 25 grams at a meal. The 25 gram number is about dense carbs specifically, things like bread, not the carbs coming from fruit, vegetables, and fiber, which this day had plenty of. So here's where this leaves us. If you're staring down menopause belly fat that won't budge, or you're trying to figure out how to lose weight after menopause, start here. Protein and fat lead every meal. And y'all, drink your water. And tell me in the comments if you want to see more What I Eat in a Day episodes. If you want to see the 7 belly fat busting foods I eat on repeat, that video is linked right here. I'll see you on the next one.